Okay, so hello, welcome back. Here we are in this video. We're going to be looking at some more of the advanced settings. So specifically, that's going to be hidden layers. Now, if you remember rightly, we've kind of got this composition here, which is the main composition that we're working in. There's actually a few more layers. You might remember I actually introduced this in the main tutorial. So now we're going to look into what the layers are actually doing. So first of all, let's have a look at the reel slip here. Okay, so it's pretty self-explanatory what it is. The reel slip is simply a point at which the composition seems to jump. So you can place this anywhere and it's going to have this effect that you're looking at now. And it's pretty cool, you know, and adds to that vintage effect. Again, it's just making it a little more premium as well. You can duplicate this if you want with them selected. Hold Control, press D, and we can, you know, move these around if we want. In fact, well, let's move this up like so, and then you can, you know, move these to have them the second time. You can switch them off, you can delete them, you can do whatever you like. So I'll probably save this in a template format, so when you open the composition, it's actually going to open up as an untitled project, so you can do what you like in the composition. You can save it as a separate title, and whatever you do, you're always going to have the original template, so you can make as much mess and you know, make as many mistakes as you like. It doesn't matter. So let's delete that there. Next up, we're going to look into the camera shake. Okay, so with the camera, if we tap U here, it can be a bit temperamental. There we go. So we've got position. That is what this expression is applied to. Wiggle is perhaps the most common expression used on After Effects. It's a very popular one. It's quite easy to use. Basically, there are two coordinates here which basically dictate the speed and the frequency. So the best thing to do with this really is just to play around with the numbers. If you don't like it, just experiment with, you know, perhaps 5 and 25 and see how that plays out. And you'll see a different kind of effect once it's rendered in your screen. You can just do a RAM preview, composition, RAM preview. I'm only on my laptop here, so it's not particularly powerful, but you can play with that to your heart's content. And that's really all there is to it. For the extra layers, you can look in this pre-composition for vintage treatment. Basically, you're just looking at the lines here. So we've got, of course, the kind of the screen tearing or the page tearing effect, which appear intermittently. You can go up to the effect controls and play with those. We come back here, you've got the vignette effect, which is just like this kind of bordering black, which really gives it that kind of vintage look, which is very popular as well. Of course, I mean, you get it on wedding photographs, you get it on a lot of vintage items and design works, and it just gives it a nice effect, even in modern work as well. And then you've got the sepia effect, which is just basically colorization, and you can play around with these settings here. But in terms of everything else, I mean, that's pretty much it. We've gone through the reel slip, the camera, we've looked at the wiggle expression, of course, the paper and the texture. Okay, so the paper, it's not actually simply just a blank kind of background, which is a beige in colour. There is actually a texture applied to it, and it's dynamic as well. And so if we play this, you can actually see that it's kind of shuddering around, almost like bacteria in a petri dish, which looks quite horrible from that angle. But if you apply it to kind of the paper and you give the paper just kind of a subtle, bring up the opacity here, I've just given it a little bit of transparency there. It just kind of gives it this nice texture and adds to that vintage feel, you know, whether it's a result of kind of the camera artifacting or whether it is the paper itself, kind of the veins going through the paper. It's just a nice little additional effect that is kind of there in the background, which just adds to the production value. So if you want to get a bit more advanced with the template, I hope you have some fun with it. If you don't have to, of course, but that's the advanced settings. So if we go down into the letter composition and we switch off the hidden layers there, you can see that basically there's a template here that I used when I originally built the template, which you obviously don't need to use unless you want to develop the template further. That's up to you. And then we've got our Illustrator layers here. Of course, you've got them so you can redesign if you really want to. But that's that. And then we have these sound files, which I'll go into in another video.